Welcome, Miraj, to Jagged.
Hi. Hi.
And
Thank you for inviting me for this. It's an honor. Thank you.
likewise. So, Miraj has a huge and varied experience in building and nurturing brands. He's been with clients, with agencies, with corporate houses, and he's done something at the national level also for the nation, that you've nurtured brands from the scratch. And somehow it's not just meant, putting a seed, but it's also meant changing the paradigm, witnessing and creating a whole new relationship with the category itself. And this is the toughest part, how do you build a relationship with a new to the world concept? And the concept, there is no need gap. The concept itself is new. When you don't have an anchor in terminology to address something, how do you communicate it? How do you showcase it? And incidentally, I'm getting to Tata Sky, and that was one of my first projects in quantitative market research. And I know how challenging it was for the client to, how do we communicate digital quality in a normal concept, because there was no product. It's completely new to the world concept. If you can situate us to that time, was it 2005, 2006?
Absolutely right. Yeah, you would have started your research. The launch, I think, happened in August 2006 is when it was launched. As you said, the brief was very challenging. 2-3 things were a biggest part of the challenge. One was that, people were happy with what they had. They had cable television showing X number of channels. And the currency those days was, I have 256 channels. Oh, you have 256 channels? I'll give you 350 channels. So number of channels was the currency. And कि मेरे पास 300 चैनल है, तुम्हारे पास कितने? 500. चलो रे बाप रे, बहुत बड़ी बात. So that was one point. So there was no need. Secondly, मुझे कुछ करना नहीं है. मेरे पास एक डब्बा है और month end, a guy comes and takes the money and goes. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to put up a dish outside and things like that. It just comes through a wire. Third was, it's expensive. Why would I go for it? I'm happy with my thing. It's at least 30 to 40, 30% to 30% expensive. So what do you do? And quality of picture, what are you talking? I don't even know what is quality of picture and audio because I haven't seen it. I haven't experienced it. How am I going to showcase that, Tata Sky is better? Because the production quality or the transmission or whatever that they would be seeing on the screen, if I make a campaign, that will be the same. So they cannot see it कि ये X वो सर्फ के ad में या detergent ये X से धुलता है ये Y से धुलता है वो नहीं हो सकता है इसमें because you cannot showcase that because that was a strange challenge.
And Miraj, I'm very tempted to tell you how we tackled it before, you reveal what you guys did. And I mean, people have witnessed it. A lot of people have witnessed it, but it is thinking behind and how big a challenge it is that, you are, sharing with us. We actually then had an audio visual stimulus, where the entire system of experiencing it, like the pay-per-view and features being talked about in simple terms, the menu, the guide and all that, it was intensive because, everything had to be evaluated. And there were so many markets like Lucknow, Ludhiana, villages in Ludhiana had the advantage that, the cable would not be required. So, what levels and what tiers, and there was just so much thinking that had to be done because here's a product that has worked in certain markets. But, is it, sometimes it's ahead of time and so you have to figure out what do I lead with? What do I promise more? Who's going to be the TG? What's going to be profitable? So Miraj, now I've built some more suspense.
I think,
Even though we know that's the whole thriller part,
Yeah, I mean, it's good that we are conversing on this particular subject because you've been on that side and it's like kind of the conversation will be holistic for the viewers because they will, you saw the entire brand from a different perspective, and I read those researches which you were a part of. So it's just kind of uncanny and
And,
interesting as well. And what we came to is like, let's see, of course, basics of building a brand is first thing you want to know, do a positioning. What's your positioning? And positioning, of course, always takes a little bit of a time, because positioning is not what you want to project, but it's what is in the consumer's head. I mean, how somebody sees Apple or thinks about Apple is the positioning. It's not what a client wants, or as a company I want. I can write a beautiful line, just do it, but if they don't think about it as just do it, then it's just a failure. So anyway, the positioning was about, let's say, 10x entertainment. India will see entertainment the way India has never seen it before. Although, having said that, I would also say that Dish was already there in the system in a small way. You also must be aware, but they were not doing great numbers, because obviously it's expensive and all of that in Indonesia, same reason. So Dish is also not doing well. So Tata Sky, I had Tata ke naam, so you have to do a bang. So the product is disruptive, right? So your communication has to be disruptive, right? And if the communication has to be disruptive, then positioning also has to be disruptive. So if positioning has to be disruptive, it is something India has never seen before, an entertainment level that India has never seen before. If that's the central thought, why don't we show everything being thrown out of the window? I said, what everything? Like all the entertainment devices, the way everything is being used today, currently. And that would be a teaser, and let's not go on with a bang. So that will create this kind of curiosity in the minds of the people of India and all of that. And then when we announce it, then we announce it, and then we announce it in a way that, again, the decoding of the message should be that it's something X, 10X or whatever. It's something which has not been seen before. And that's when his brilliance came up with that line, which is still the line of Tata Sky, iskolagadalatohlifejhingalala. Now, nobody knows what Jingalala is. Nobody still knows, but I think now they think it's Tata Sky. But those days, and it's something good. It's something fun. It's something interesting. It's not boring. It's Jingalala. Yeah, Tata Sky is the hero, and masses. It will affect the masses and the India at large. And the results were amazing. Again, 3x of the target. As far as 3x of the target in 6 months target. 3x of the target was achieved. And immediately we were like neck to neck. Dish was neck to neck to. I mean, Tata Sky was neck to neck to Dish. Then suddenly Dish got a Shah Rukh Khan as a reply. Dish karo and wish karo and all of that started happening. So the entire Dish wars, or whatever you call it, started happening.
So amazing. Now we will move to another brand that you were part of from the very beginning, and somehow that one also is poised to become a platform in itself. It has again changed the experience of working with data. I'm talking about Reliance Jio, and so I'm very curious about knowing how did the distinctiveness, apart from the price advantage and all the endowment effects, thinking that happened at the brand level. So you got trials, you made sure, but at the perception level, at the branding level, how did this distinctiveness got created? What was the thinking behind it?
When I got into it, it was the pure inception period. So huge experience for me, actually, if you ask me. And in meetings with even Mukesh Ambani, and as we used to call him at that point in time, or still I think it comes out of my mouth, Mukesh Bhai, in all the meetings I've seen his passion, that I'm doing it for the country. He used to say very passionately. And he used to say कि empowerment नहीं, मैं जाता हूँ कोरिया जाता हूँ, US जाता हूँ, speech देखता हूँ, इतना interesting उसके वजह से इतनी चीजें होती हैं. But India में आओ वापस, suddenly the moment you're down from the airport or whatever, your aircraft, your speeds are whatever. So he really pumped in. Of course, as we all know, he has all the money, so he pumped in all the money in this. So empowerment was the central theme of the entire piece, empowering India, like the way. And I think he really latched on to the whole thing about data is the new oil. Data was the buzzword, and of course, data is the new oil kind of a thing came up. Sorry, you were going to ask something?
How did Jio came about?
Yeah, I'll come to that. Which is why I said Dhirubhai was a visionary. So one of his favorite thinking is, and which is written or splashed across Reliance offices. Growth is life. So essentially, Jio comes from that life part of it. So growth is life. So keep growing. And you say Jio to, your bacha, your सबको कहते हैं, जीते रहो जियो खुशी से जियो. And that's where it comes from. The idea was to empower the country to live in a much better way than they have been living. And that's where Jio cracked and worked with all of us, everyone who was involved in it. So empowerment makes you live fully, live better. So live better, hence Jio. And I'll tell you another interesting anecdote, and I was there in that room. The greatest of the designers of the world are presenting the ideas to, of course, Mukesh Bhai, and things like ever-changing logo and different colored logos and evolving logo and beautiful ideas. And these are world-class designers. I mean, the greatest in the world are working on this. And they showcase the entire, and there'll be dots. These dots you would have seen the dots in the logo. They represent the digital binary world, and things like that. Suddenly he says, just add digital life to it. So everyone is like, no. I mean, they were quiet, and you don't speak. I mean, there was a German lady who's still there, Caroline. She came with a lot of experience with Mercedes and T-Mobile. So, and she had created some 142 patents, and yeah. So she's like, she was not happy with it, and later she tried saying that no, we should not, because it will spoil the entire beauty of the logo and the entire thinking that it's, and you don't need to reveal things. But Mukesh Bhai is like, no, I want digital life. It explains the entire thing. Jio digital life. The story is complete, and that's like really true. I mean, I realize that he knows India better than anybody else.
Yeah.
So, and it works. Jio digital life just explains what you are. You are all about digital life.
Yeah.
So I thought it's an interesting anecdote which I should tell to the viewers and you, because ऐसे ही कोई इतना बड़ा नहीं बन जाता लाइफ, समझो. उसके पास जो इनसाइट्स होते हैं ना बहुत तगड़े होते हैं, तभी वो इतना आगे जाता है. As simple as that.
Really, and the vision also that his canvas is so big. His canvas is always as big as can be. Okay, I want to impact life.
And it has happened. Can you not see the way Jio is being consumed across India? All this OTT revolution is because of Jio being able to provide that speed on your phone. As simple as that.
So now we come to the creative aspect in you. Yeah. I want to know some of the beautiful ads that you've been instrumental in, either as a planner or on the client side. And I guess the Pampers one is coming to mind because it's gotten revitalized with Virat's daughter.
Yes. Yes. I think Leo Burnett. Yeah, I think Leo Burnett has done a wonderful extension of the idea.
Yeah, totally. And it's just so timely and so endearing. As the Pampers, personality is brand personality. But it takes two. At that point in time, also, it was anchored in the changing role of the man.
It takes two is very simple, Jasravee. The idea is like you can't have a baby just by yourself. Even if you're single, you will need that seed, for the lack of a better word. Or if you're a man, you will need somebody to help you carry the baby inside. So if it takes two to have a child, why does it take mostly take one person to bring the child up? That is the whole insight and the idea here. And it's very simple. It takes two. Hashtag is just absolutely easy to understand. And good thing is what we also did was we just did a communication piece, and the client was very receptive towards the idea. Of course, an idea like this, which is, greatest of the ideas in this world are the simplest of the ideas. If it's complicated and people don't get it, then it's like a book written by Hermann Hesse or maybe another philosopher. I don't know, whoever. So anyway, coming back to it, so we suggested, why don't the public toilets of airports and hotels have nappies changing zone in men's bathroom as well? Put it there. start building those things, put the product there, because why can't they do it? Why is it always in a woman's washroom? And then we started branding it over there. The packaging changed. It started showing men in the packaging. Earlier it was just baby and the mother, and so it was just not the idea of a communication piece. It was extended beyond it, and I think that's where the beauty of that whole campaign lies. And
Yeah,
a lot of it came from the creative team, and the creative team of this, all women, all girls team. It was wonderful working with them, and so much passion came out, and it's just
yeah.
it was fantastic.
You
Yeah.
know, that's the
From
beauty of it. The insight is very, I mean, and it seems simple, but you are tapping into, the need of the times, and you're
yeah,
bringing, you're making it acceptable and, in fact, desirable that men should
yeah,
participate from that young an age. Because typically what
yeah,
happens is the child grows up to a certain time, and then
yeah,
the
yeah,
father gets involved that,
yeah,
okay, let me play with the
yeah,
child and help.
yeah,
But here, like Share the Load, you're changing the discourse of the
yeah,
society, and you're saying that, it is not just, acceptable, it is being celebrated. So you
yeah,
are putting a message in the society which is changing. Uh,
yeah,
a big discourse, but very gently, very
yeah,
sweetly,
yeah,
without any activism of the
yeah,
conventional kind. The change
yeah.
is being planted and nurtured beautifully, and the fact that they have stuck with the idea for as long, and I thought it got taken internationally as well. Or
Yes, other
markets.
geographies also used it. Yes, Middle East they
Yeah.
use this, and
So
Southeast Asia
that's what
because
I
it's a very powerful universal insight. See, just to add to you, I mean, and where we also came from, researchers show, and all the doctors and all the child care specialists say,
Mm.
if the child is taken care of by both the parents, the holistic upbringing and the mind and the way the child blooms is much better than when it's done only by one person.
Yes.
So that reflects in the child's personality. It becomes a much more fuller personality. Biologically also they are fitter because internally the hormones are working better because
Yeah.
it's natural, right?
Yeah.
And so that's point number one. Point number two, you touched upon it, the cultural. India, of course, still a very patriarchal society because that's what has been. But the certain sections of the society, let's say 10% of the population or the city dwellers, um, and where both the parents are working, um, it at that point in time, and it's still maybe very not as explored an idea by the people. Most 80% of the population of the country still behaves wherein the woman takes care of the child, and while man goes to the office and maybe makes money or whatever. Uh, but a large set of population had begun talking about it at that point in time, and articles were appearing, and culturally that whole idea of mutual parenting, co-parenting, was there in the culture, in the society, in a certain way. And when you have that, an idea like this flies. So any communication which latches on to something which is already there in the system, or which is taking off in the system, will always fly.
Yeah. Well, shall we talk now, since we got into the culture space, Miraj,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
challenge of making a launch ad for a brand that is already, there in another culture. How do you bridge the cultural gap, and
yes,
how do you keep the, you adapt and evolve, and yet you keep the
yeah.
core intact? You could touch upon that when, you're in your Airtel ad.
Yeah. I suggested that if you want to do something in that country, you need to know that country. So then I went to Sri Lanka with the client, one of the clients, Subrata, who's a good friend now, Subrata Sen. And both of us, we parked ourselves in Sri Lanka for 1 month, uh, and traveled across the country just to gather insights. And we involved local IMRB unit, so they also traveled with us. And we grabbed all the insights across the country and came and presented a case to Gopal Vittal that this needs to be done. So very simple. What the case was is that Sri Lankans are as talkative, or in fact more talkative than Indians are, right? They talk a lot because they have a lot of time at hand, right? Easy country, easy pace, nothing much to do. It's not like a Colombo is a slightly different, but even Colombo, it's like such a party country, party city, and people talk so much. But when it comes to phones, their conversation were like they were using it like sprays and perfumes, and because they didn't know what's going on. 4 players, complicated tariff plans. रात में कुछ कट जाता था पैसा उनको समझ में नहीं आता था सुबह इतना कम कैसे हो गया. This used to happen in India as well at one point in time, if you remember, when the phones had come, new mobile phones, and incoming was charged, right? And complicated packets, 4 players. So they were using mobile phones very frugally, right? Very, very frugally. Like डर के इस्तेमाल कर रहे थे. कब कहाँ पैसा चला जाएगा कुछ पता नहीं. And most of them were not aware of the package plans. बस ले लेते थे जो सस्ता है क्या. So these were the insights that came out. While not at phone, they are like partying all the time, talking all the time. So, and the other insight was that, they have a sort of love-hate relationship with India. Love part of it is the glamorous part of it. Bollywood is big out there. And they love the dressing sense and, good-looking people and all of that. And Shah Rukh Khan was big. And Shah Rukh Khan, incidentally, was the ambassador at that point in time for Airtel. And the hate part is they find Indians a little arrogant, which they are, because Sri Lankans are very polite and gentle. I mean, once you so anyway, if this is the thing that they're not talking freely and they're having a tough time using their phone, and they have this whole Bollywood thing going on, so and Shah Rukh is already there. So the whole idea was to launch the thing with a little bit of a teaser that shows all the nuances of Sri Lanka, all the beautiful locations, because it's a beautiful island. So you show people across all walks of life in all the beautiful places of Sri Lanka, whether it's the mountain of or sea beach of Hikaduwa, or is it with the Airtel theme going on, which is again a beautiful musical theme with Rahman. Rahman has made it's still so nice to hear. It's the beauty of that melody, and that's where I'll touch upon the music part of it. So they're moving across, their phones ring, and they pick up, and from the other end, Shah Rukh Khan in his distinctive style says, "Hello, Sri Lanka." So that was the launch. And believe you me, launch 1 week after the launch, I mean, there were 600,000 people clamoring across the shops in Sri Lanka trying to go for the connection in that 1 week's time across Sri Lanka. Because,
so
yes,
this particular ad, like you're saying, everything that Sri Lanka is proud of, aspires to, and is rooted in, you kind of mixed that entire spectrum, from their culture and landmarks, nature, to Shah Rukh, which is symbol of aspiration. You kind of built it up as a big thing, and the hype got leveraged, that got built up over.
Yes, so this was the first phase. Second phase, what we did was we needed a local connect. Like Shah Rukh is glamorous and all of that and desirable and very aspirational, but he's not somebody who you can relate with. He's an outsider. He's an Indian, right? So we got Sangakkara, who was the captain and the greatest Sri Lankan at that point in time, and a very well-spoken man and a very well-read lawyer himself and all of that. So studied law and things like that. So we got him. And this time we presented the whole proposition. And the proposition was talk freely. I recommended the product plan also make incoming free, because the Sri Lankans were not used to incoming free at that point in time. So incoming free and 2 plans. That's it. Simplify the entire game, make them talk freely. And suddenly it made sense to them that, these guys are really talking about talk freely because incoming is free. And I just have packages to choose from, so I won't be confused what's going on. And the campaign was also crafted beautifully by the Airtel, the creative team in Rediff again. I mean, the Sangakkara is sitting from childhood to his old age, and every time he's trying to do something, he's been asked to shut up. The teacher is asking him to shut up. Your mother is asking him to shut up when he wants to talk a lot. And now he picks up the phone and he says, "No, now I can talk freely because there is Airtel." So that was the entire idea. And the other thing was before this, he was a brand ambassador for a local player called Mobitel. So subconsciously, we are also communicating that he shifted from Mobitel to Airtel. Now it's your turn. So talk freely. You see.
And I think the beauty is that express yourself was the key thought
Yeah.
for Airtel. You know, and beautiful campaigns had happened in the country. So
Obviously.
in the globalized reality, it's just a different expression of the same ethos.
Functional messaging was talk freely, but
Yes,
express yourself remained the larger thought.
yes.
The anecdote bit, um, since the Airtel signature tune was so beautiful, but I wanted it to translate it to something that they can relate to. So they have this festival in Kandy, which is the sort of hill station in Sri Lanka. It's called Kandian Festival, where they have a procession of elephants and people dressed in local Sri Lankan and all of that. And there's a particular instrument. It's called papera band. Papera. It sounds like the way your IPL things sound. Ta, 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 ta. So the sound is pretty much like that. So what I did was I found a local trumpet player, okay, who could play this in the typical papera band thing. And he played the tune exactly on the local instrument.
Wow.
And that became the radio jingle. And I remember being at that studio, and then I wrote about it in my blog because I was so fascinated by the entire thing. So he learned the tune, and he couldn't speak a word of English. He could only speak Sinhalese, which is the local language. I had to keep on playing that tune and listen to it, and then he grabbed it in the local, and that became the radio jingle. And people realized that, suddenly this melody is being played in our local instrument. And Sri Lankans are very musical by nature, very dancey, very love their music, easy culture. You just have fun. That's what it is.
Island
So
culture.
yeah, island culture. So they just lapped it up. That was so music plays a huge role in good communication.
I think this was brilliant, to have the whole thing in a folk instrument, if I could call it folk, their own instrument, so they could make it their own. That's
Yes.
I mean, it's so in such a raw, authentic manner. It's your own, the folk. Nobody can take it,
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
have made the brand jingle enveloped in that, so they can own
Yes.
it, and that's such a swift move. It'll happen seamlessly. So amazing. That's the power of music. Thank you,
Yes.
Meraj. Thank you.
Bless you, Jasravee. Thank you for this.
Bye from Jagged with Jasravee.
I like the name. It's quite cool, and it has that certain cutting edge to it.